Hello and welcome to Newsnight. I am Ladi Akiriduluale. Thanks for joining us today. National security is still the major focus of attention in Nigeria. Abductions, kidnappings, killings, banditry, cattle rustling, attack on security agents and their facilities are all increasing in size and scope. Many are giving their opinions on what needs to be done by government and the people to bring the situation under control. The ruling All Progressives Congress, the APC, however, says it has full confidence in President Muhammadu Buhari and his government's ability to checkmate those it describes as enemies of the country. Newsnight talks to former minority leader of the House of Representatives, Honorable Farouk Adamu Aliyu. Honorable Farouk Adamu Aliyu, thank you for your time. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
The thing everybody is talking about in Nigeria today is the state of security or insecurity. I think a good way to begin will be to ask what your general comment is today about the state of Nigeria's security. What do you make of it?
Well, the truth of the matter is the general security situation of this country is very bad. And we as a government acknowledge the fact that we are in a serious situation and that we need the cooperation of everybody in this country. We should see it as a national challenge that needs everybody to come on board so that we don't play politics with it, so that we see it as a problem for all of us. So the earlier we come together and walk through it to ensure we have peace, because without security and peace in the country, no meaningful progress will be made. So we acknowledge this challenge, and the situation is dire, the situation is really serious, and the government is trying its best to ensure normalcy is returned. So that's my take.
Even though you say that, it does appear as if many of the major players, including people in the political parties, religious leaders, traditional rulers, don't appear to be helping the situation at all. And by this, I mean all sides. You talked about not playing politics, but it seems as if everybody is playing politics. People are making very tense comments capable of eating up the polity. What is being done at the moment to bring down the general temperature, do you think?
Well, unfortunately, yes, politicians will always play politics, but, government comes, government goes, the country remains. So if we as politicians don't tread carefully, we don't know what, will come to haunt us someday. Because now, why I said politicians, that yes, we are playing politics with it. When I say we, let's say all of us, including both those in the ruling party and also the opposition parties, but more from the opposition party, because we've gone through opposition before, and there are certain comments that when you're in opposition, sometimes you do them out of ignorance, and sometimes you do them deliberately. But I think as a nation, this is probably one of the worst periods we have, where you have crisis almost everywhere. Now, in the northern part of the country, you have the Boko Haram on one side, you have the banditry, the kidnappings on the other side. When you go to the southern part of the country, the southeastern part of the country, it's more of political, and the southwest also more of political. I mean, in the southeastern part of this country, when you see people trying to secede, secessionist movements, some members, ESN, they've come out clearly, to call on other ethnic nationalities to be killed or to be, taken out of that part of the country. Also in the southwestern part of the country, we see people coming out to say, look, leave our territories and so on. So that's, to me, is politics. Now, when
I'm sorry to interrupt, Honorable Aliyu, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt, but when you say that, there will be those who will immediately point to the fact that also in the north, there were people who asked that non-northerners should leave earlier. even before all of this started happening, and that they may accuse the northern
Well,
elements of being the first to start all of this. What do you make of that?
well, I'm coming to. Well, I honestly, if I have seen any northerner, I have not seen. I'm not saying there is none, but in the open, as at now, who are the ones calling for secession? Who are the ones calling? I mean, we have seen videos of some ethnic nationalities being killed. We've seen videos. We've seen where some animals are slaughtered. We've seen these things. And I don't want us, you see, I don't want us to talk about northern people against southern people or southern people against northern people as a people. But as leaders, if we sit by and don't speak about it, if we don't condemn these kind of actions, and I don't think in the northern part of the country there is any known secessionist movement or there's any known group that has come out to see, I mean, for us to see that there are other persons from other parts of the country being killed. We've seen it in this country. But you see, look, I don't want to go that way because I mean, I want one Nigeria, and we are one as of today. So I don't want to go through that. But then this is the fact. You have to say it. So it's politics. I mean, if my brothers from the southern part of the country, which means when I say south now, I'm talking about southeast in particular and southwest. If my brothers, the elites in the southeastern part of this country, don't come out to condemn IPOB, to condemn ESN, and you think you will still want cohesion, I mean, that's not nice. So it would be good for the elites. Because look, the elites in this country are one and the same. The elites from the southeastern part of the country, the northern, the Muslims, and the Christians are one and the same. Also, when you go to the southwestern part of the country, there are known persons that you can call them as leaders who want southwestern part of the country to move out of this of Nigeria. They are there. There are, in fact, there are some leaders from southwestern part of the country that have come out, a lot of them, to condemn those kind of attitudes. But in the southeastern part of the country, you don't find that. So collectively as people, if we don't see that as danger, so that's political to me, probably for reasons best known to them. Probably southeastern part of the country, some of them really, yes, want to leave Nigeria. But look, even if anybody wants this country to be divided, why can't we agree and sit around the table and decide that, look, we don't want to be together? You don't have to call for killing of any other person. So that's politics. Then when you come to the northern part of the country, where you have the terrorism of Boko Haram and kidnappings and banditry, you see, we also have to take responsibility as a people. Now, when some states don't take serious action about these things, when some state governors don't enact laws, like there are some states in the north that have, specified death penalty for kidnappings and banditry. That's good because these are like state duties. But you see, when politicians come to talk, they will say the federal government has not done anything to curb banditry or kidnappings. These are state laws. These are not federal laws. These are not federal offenses. The government, everybody has seen, that is trying as much as possible to fight the terrorism. But look, we take responsibility as a government at the federal level that even if you fight with your wife today at home, you will say it's the fault of Buhari or APC. That's okay, that's fine. We are in government now. So we take responsibility for some of the things. But then when, as politicians, we don't see it as a problem, that how do we address these issues? If you don't know you might be kidnapped on the way, you don't know terrorists might attack you. And in this same country, you remember back in the days when Abuja was bombed several times, when we had bombings in Kano, in Kaduna, in Gombe, all over the place. Now some of these things have virtually gone. They are not there. But we're not saying there are no challenges. Are there challenges in this country? Yes, there are. Are the members of armed forces trying very well? They are. Are they thinning out? Yes, they are. Should the government recruit more people into the armed forces? Yes. Should the government continue to buy more equipment? Yes, government should do that. Should government move also to look into, modern warfare, trying to tackle this banditry, armed robbery, terrorism through technology, yes, government should do that. And the government is also doing that. But you see, in politics also, whatever you do, the other opposition party will see no good in that, which is okay, which is part of what they should do. But then there are certain things that also, if it is done, it should be acknowledged that something has been done.
Now, you mentioned the fact that as part of efforts, getting more people into the armed forces, there seems to be now building some kind of consensus around the fact that the country needs more boots on the ground in all these areas in order to contain all these security challenges. However, there are those who still ask questions about what had happened in the past. I mean, in the last couple of years. Just a couple of hours before now, the finance minister was at the National Assembly to explain that all that was budgeted for the Nigerian army in 2020 was released 100%. Before that, there were those who said the $1 billion that was taken from the excess crude account for the purchase of arms. The new service chiefs, upon resumption, are saying that they can't find most of the arms. Senator Nduma is saying that the army is having to ration ammunition. So is there an element here that people are saying that, look, the government may be doing what it's doing, but it's not following through to ensure that whatever resources it is providing is really being used for the purpose for which it is meant? The arms issue, no matter how many people you get, if they don't have arms with which to fight, then we might not still achieve success.
That's true. Well, let me talk about the $1 billion. Politicians can say whatever they want to say. The part of the $1 billion, what was spent, $592 million, were paid for the 12 Tucano aircraft fighter jets we are buying from US. It's there. That has been paid 100%. And some of them, about 6 of them, are arriving sometimes in July. I mean, work is ongoing in New Busa, where these aircrafts are going to be domiciled. As I speak to you, more than 80 members of the Air Force are currently in training in US so that they can come and man these aircrafts. The United States, the company that is producing them are going to domicile their persons in this country for training of our personnel for upward of 3 years. All part of the $1 billion. And then ammunitions are also bought all over the place. They are there. So, I mean, what I want the National Assembly to do is probably to call for public hearing, call for the Minister of Finance to come and show the public that what has that money been used for. But I assure you that not a single dollar is missing. As I speak to you now, today, $110 million is left in that account. It's there. Because this is a very, very transparent government. Whatever we are doing, we want to be held accountable. So it's good for people are asking questions. And I'm sure the National Ali Ndume is a very close friend of mine. He's very thorough, and I'm sure he will go through to it to ensure that people of this country know exactly where the money has gone to. It's there. And then, you see, we also have issues, with the military. The issues are, because we don't have enough men on ground. And some of them go on tour duty for upwards of 3 years. There are some members of the armed forces that do not rotate on time. This is the normal thing that is happening in other climes. But the government is trying to do so. Even last week, recruitments are put on the newspaper. I mean, I know Air Force have done that. The Army are doing that. Now the government is trying to increase number of people that will go into the armed forces, also to be retrained and be trained and so on and so forth, so that we can, you see, this is a country of over 200 million people, and members of our armed forces are not up to 200,000. So this is not the fault of this government. This is the fault of collectively all of us, including the PDP that ruled this country for 16 years. So it is a collective thing, but this government is trying to improve on that. And you also have to know that the whole world is in economic crisis. So it's also paucity of funds, which is a fact. So you also have to contend with what to do and what not to do. But we are gradually getting to the government might probably, stop some capital projects to face this security squarely. It's part of the thing on the table that government is looking at. That look, okay, probably we have to stop some of the projects and ensure that we all focus on this security situation because we need to secure ourselves first so that there will be meaningful development.
I'm happy that you mentioned the economy, though. I'll be coming to the economy and how that plays into the general insecurity challenge in just a moment. But before we go to that, I want to still drill down a little bit on the issue of the security. There are those who have raised the point repeatedly that part of what is creating the problem with making everybody feel that they are part of this challenge and that they need to buy in is that there seems to be a skewing in appointments into the nation's security architecture, that all the service commanders who control troops and very key formations are from one part of the country. What's your take on that?
You see, unfortunately, also, that is also politics. And also, unfortunately, we still don't see us as one people. Unfortunately and sadly. Because look, we have a government in place. And the government that came through political process. If anybody from any part of the country can do the job, why not? And then if it is the general consensus of the people that what this government is doing is not right, when an opportunity comes, the government should be voted out. But remember, this same government was voted again in 2019. With still some services from certain part of the country. So you could see that this is politics. This is issue of elites. The downtrodden, the mass. I'm from Jigawa State, one of the remotest part of this country. The poor man in my village is the same poor man in Eket, or the poor man from my village is the same one in somewhere down in Aroekiti or somewhere. So at the level of the elites, this is fighting of the elites. So whenever elites lose out, that's when they start, saying all these things. And I want also, the masses, to start holding us politicians accountable. This is the country where, as politicians, some of us have no shame. Some of us will move from PDP to APC. In this country, the same, you see, the connivance of the elites. This one I am hitting both APC and PDP. Look at what happened in Edo State. We had Obaseki as our governor in APC. We said everything bad about PDP. All of a sudden, for selfish reasons of the elites, us together, Obaseki moved to PDP. The PDP candidate moved to APC. We took the APC candidate and started saying he's the good guy and so on. And at the end of the day, the same guy from APC now in PDP won, while earlier the man in APC won. Now, so who is deceiving who? So the elites. So the earlier we start looking at, look, this is elite fight. The earlier the masses start looking at us, that look, we will not allow you to drag us in the mud. The earlier the downtrodden start asking questions, that look, have they seen elites? I, a Muslim, Fulani man, a herdsman, have they seen me fighting on the street with Emeka, a friend of mine from Enugu? We don't do that at the level of elites. So look, this is political and elitist fight. And I think it is high time that we are held accountable. We, when I said we, the elite, the political elite, across the divide. So please don't even go that way. Anybody start talking about somebody from different part of the country, is the person has lost out. And we should stop deceiving ourselves. So the game is the same, because the truth of the matter also, PDP and APC, there is a very thin line dividing us in the personalities, not at the party. Because the personalities, look, who is our leader? Muhammad Buhari is our leader. Whatever you will say about Muhammad Buhari, you cannot accuse him of taking other people's money. In other party, where you have the leaders that are accused, can be verified. So when we start looking at who is leading us, and when we also start looking at, look, probably we should come together as a people that, look, whether anybody is good in any party, when real issues come, we should look at it squarely. If APC puts up any candidate who is not good for the people should reject that person. If PDP puts any person who is not good for the people, everybody should continue to come together and vote the person out. So until such a time when we as a people, we as the elites, start being truthful, right, telling the people the truth, and then probably there will not be change. And we, as I said, I want the masses to understand this. That look, this fight is us, the elites, fighting. When you go to the market, the poor men are there, doing business among themselves. So please, I don't want to go into that one section of the country has taken anything. To me, that's political and selfish. Elitist also.
Let me drill down a little bit on that and talk about the issue of willpower. Because, of course, those who raise that point point to the fact that there's a federal character principle in place, and that federal character principle is designed to make everybody feel included, both in the process of governance and in the process of policy formulation and implementation. But let me use a specific example to talk about what I meant by the political will. A little while back, two lists were published by the two main political parties. One was published by the government, which talked about some of the corrupt people in the opposition. And then the opposition published its own list of people who are corrupt in the ruling party. After those lists were published, a lot of people said the two lists should have been merged and all the people on the list should have been gone after. But since then, we've heard nothing about either list. Nothing has happened, at least that we know of. Nothing has happened. Does this speak to what you've just talked about, the thin line between the people in both parties and the fact that their interests are actually the same?
No, you see, the difference also is that in this government, honestly, there is no sacred cow. So many corrupt cases are being investigated. Part of the mandate given to this new EFCC guy is please don't do media trial. So many things are done in covertly. And you will see in no distant future that when persons will be arraigned in courts, to be tried over corruption cases. So, I mean, the government is going after them, and you will see, as I said, you will see that a lot of work is ongoing. And mark you, prosecutions are also ongoing. As I said, some are not made public, but there are some that you can hide, which will, anytime from now, you will see. And this is also the same government that has tried high-level officials that are part of the government, that are from the same party. So please, I think we shouldn't even go that way. That thin line, it's not, in terms of fighting of corruption, we don't put any line. Anybody that is found to be corrupt.
No, my apologies for interrupting. When we started talking, of course, the subject was security. And there are those who say that what we're talking about now is directly linked to security, because there is a lot of resources in the hands of a number of people who are then at liberty to use those resources for interests that are not the overall national interest, that are in the interests of a few people in the course of the nation's history. And that a little while ago as well, there was the question of a few people having been identified, some of them, in fact, bureau de change operators and others, who help move resources around for some of those who are practicing banditry, terrorism, and so on. Again, that gave a lot of hope that, we were beginning to tackle the problem, but we haven't heard much of that since the announcements were made. Do you have any light you can shine on that?
I can confirm to you that all those people published, all of them are under detention now, all of them, and they are going to be prosecuted. They are being investigated, of course, and any one of them, because some of these things, we have to tread carefully also to ensure that when you prosecute, you don't lose the case. But I assure you that anybody that is found, this is the same government that published the names anyway, so because we're not hiding anything. And they are all under detention as I speak to you now, all of them, everybody. Each one of them that is traced to terrorism, those that are the link that we got from Dubai, UAE, they're being investigated, and so many other more, which, as I said, are done covertly, because there are certain things that you need to do them covertly so that they don't even escape. And I assure you, in no distant future, you will see the big bomb that is going to come out of those things.
Let me then ask about this. There are several people who, as you said, have been, instead of trading the blame game, have been trying to proffer solutions. ways forward to tackle these security challenges. For example, you have the former Senate President and former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Ayim Pius Ayim, asking that government should set up a very comprehensive inquiry to look at this matter holistically. That's on one side. There are those who have asked the government to declare a national state of emergency in security so that we can tackle this. There are those who have said restructuring, at least at the level of policing, should now be immediately done. Now, which one of these are you buying, and why?
Well, you see, personally, now I'm speaking personally. Personally, I'm not buying any one of those things. Now, let's start with Pius Ayim. You see, it is very good for anybody because it's our country. So there is nothing wrong in senior citizens like Ayim to proffer a solution. That's okay. That's fine. But you see, where he missed the point, as a leader in this country, who was a Senate president, what did he do probably to amend the Constitution when he was there to bring state policing? What did he do? Did we hear his voice talking about ESN? Did we hear his voice condemning IPOB? We have seen on television where members of IPOB calling for secession, where members of ESN were calling for killing of certain nationalities in this country. Did we hear his voice? No, we did not. So you see, when you start doing this kind of thing, for whatever reason, it's not right. So, but as I said, it's a suggestion. He is right to come out and say his mind. We are playing politics, but I want my brother, Pius Ayim, to please start his advice from home. And when we talk about the state police, personally, I don't mind, personally. But when we talk about this same government, through this outreach the government is doing, town hall meetings, we have also said, look, why don't we, collectively, why don't the state governors, state assemblies, and members of the National Assembly bring a bill to amend the Constitution? Because all these rhetorics of talking on television and making comments, restructuring and so on, there are ways to go about it. We are practicing a democracy. We have a Constitution in place. No matter how bad the Constitution is, we still have that. So if anybody wants any part of that Constitution to be amended, whether restructuring, what are we talking about restructuring? Because restructuring means different things to different people. So whatever your area wants to be restructured, bring it forward. But then, you need to lobby other parts of the country to amend a dot in the Constitution. You need two-thirds of the state assemblies in this country. You need members of National Assembly. You need stakeholders. So all these things are, there is nothing wrong to discuss them. And probably, if we, the people of this country, think that we need state policing, if it is the general view, please, if this government of today does not lead to that, when election comes, let it be an issue to be campaigned for. Let each party that feels so strongly, that's if it's not done. I hope it gets done, if that's what people want. But if these issues, so let's start talking about issues. Let our campaign be based on issues. Let this state policing be part of it, so that people will know that, look, if we win election, we are going to have state police. We will ensure that there is state policing. When we do that, then there will not be a problem. But when the fault of 1999 Constitution is now heaped on us in government now, that's political, and that's not right, that's not nice. So why don't we as a people see it as an anomaly? Then let's start the process. Like our brothers from the southern part of the country, or southwest, that keep talking about structuring. Why can't they make a one-point agenda? All the members of National Assembly from the southwestern part of the country should have no agenda less than restructuring. So that let them come over with it. Let's start discussing about it. But let's not go through violence. Let's not start fighting, beating, killing, maiming, calling ourselves different names. We are what we are by birth. You don't know. I did not choose to be a Fulani man. You didn't choose to be Akeredolu. So we all what we are by birth. So let's look at us as human beings, as people, so that if we see ourselves as people, human beings, because you don't know where your brother will be of help to you next time. So we as a people, if we want this country to be restructured, please let's do it in an amicable manner. Let's not do it through brigandage or terrorism or threats.
Honorable Ali, you've been talking about violence and the narrative that has been out there is that those who seem to, if they have, be resorting to violence now, because several times in the course of the interview, you've talked about people killing people from other ethnic groups and so on. All of that seem to have come to national consciousness over the issue of herders and farmers. Herders invading farms with their cattle and destroying people's crops, and there not being justice. Benue, down southwest, southeast, and so on. At that aspect of it, and I'm using that now to enter the economic argument for insecurity, that is not being tackled. From time to time, we're still hearing about herders-farmers clashes. As you've just pointed out, you're Fulani, so can I assume that you will be fair in your assessment here? Because many of the herders are of your ethnic group, same as the president.
Yes, yes, yes. You see, now, some of it is, I will still come back to politics, it's political. Now, it's an age-long crisis. You remember back in the days, probably before you and I were born, or when you and I were, well, at least when I'm an old man, when probably I was a child, there used to be what was called cattle routes. And I'm sure in Ondo State, where probably you come from, you must have, lived to see Fulanis living, around your villages and so on, because there were cattle routes. Now those cattle routes are no more. That's all right. That's through probably, globalization and agriculture and so on. But then this same government has started talking about ranching, and grazing areas, which some states vehemently opposed. Vehemently. In the same country where, the Constitution guarantees free movement. The Constitution guarantees, interaction with one another. Now, here you are, some of my brothers in Benue, like unfortunately, sadly also, the governor of Benue State, a leader who was with us in APC, and who will come out as a leader on national television, accusing president, your people, your ethnic, to me, that's playing to gallery. If a thief man is killed by any Fulani herdsman, that Fulani herdsman should be fought, And this is the same president, a Fulani man, who said, if you see any herder or anybody carrying AK-47 and does not put it down, that person should be shot. That is also illegal, but the president went further to say that, because look, you cannot kill anybody. You shouldn't kill anybody unjustifiably. But if you are carrying a gun, which means you want to be violent, the police should go after you, or the armed forces should go after you, the security agents should go after you and shoot you. This same government said that. And this same government said, look, why don't we do this ranching? I remember very well, in Benue State in particular, and some other states, they said they don't want to do that at all. These people should just leave. How can you? There are some Fulanis in Benue who know nowhere. They don't know where they are coming from. They don't, because their great-grandparents were born there. So if you tell them to leave, where are they going to go? So look, if we see the Fulani herdsmen, the violent ones, as criminals, if we treat them as criminals, if any Fulani man that is wielding gun, terrorizing people, should be treated as criminal. If you find any ESN man carrying a gun, shooting, should be treated as a criminal. Or anybody from Afenifere carrying a gun should be treated as criminal. The earlier we understand that there are Fulani criminals, there are ESN criminals, there are Afenifere criminals, and treat them as criminals, then there will be no problem. But when we start defending where our people are from, I am not defending any Fulani herdsman that is carrying AK-47 or even a Dane gun, because you are not licensed to carry a gun.
Let me bring you to the economic argument now, the economic argument for insecurity. There are those who say that there's a very big link, and that many people who would otherwise not be available for criminality of any sort or to participate in acts that could jeopardize national security are available because unemployment rates are very high, Many states are virtually bankrupt, and I'm talking about states and local governments. Even the federal government, as you pointed out earlier in the interview, is virtually broke as well. We're doing a lot of borrowing in order to sustain services, and that therefore that economic problem that we have is feeding this security argument. Many states have made it clear as we speak now that they are going to have to right-size their civil service, for example, and that means tossing out people from work, and no real alternatives are available for such people who have families. The educational system has difficulty, so does the health system. And so I'm wondering if this, you don't think we need to tackle this economic problem or challenge as a way of tackling the security challenge?
I totally agree. Of course, there is a lot of correlation, in the economic situation of the country. But remember also, Nigeria is not an island. There is global problem, economic problems. This COVID of a thing. Even before COVID, we in this country, rely 90% on oil, and you see how the price of oil has been tumbling. And so let me not blame anybody. Probably blame all. Okay, let's say they blame all of us as a people. The government that came before this had more money to do things, but they didn't do it in their wisdom. Now this government came at the time when the whole world was in recession. Many countries went into recession. We have gone about 5 times, five times into recession in this country as well. So yes, these are issues that is confronting us. And some of the political elites also need to look inwards. Because politically also, as politicians, we also need to cut down on our recurrent expenditure across board. Because the truth of the matter is a country where you have 50% of the earning, minimum, at least 50%, as much as 50% goes on recurrent expenditure. So this is not the fault of this government. This is not also the fault of the previous government. So we as a people have to look at it from that point of view, that what do we do to generate, economic benefits for the people? And this same government also, in the history of this country, no government has done palliatives or programs that will touch on the lives of the people like this government. But whether it is enough, well, it's subject for people to say, but it is true. We have challenges economically, and it's true that there is paucity of funds. It is true also monies are not coming in. It is true also the expenditure is too much on the government to bear. So now it is guess for all of us. And the government is trying as much as possible to shed more, in terms of recurrent expenditure. And as I also told you, you could see the National Economic Council, that met last, how it came out with programs that will stimulate the economy. This is the government that has spent a lot of money in terms of, it injected a lot of money in agriculture, injected a lot of money in, areas like aviation, other sectors that will allow investors to come in and invest and do so many things. So yes, it's a great challenge. Yes, government is doing everything possible to ensure we come out of it. But whether we're going to come out of it immediately, we need the collective, continuous cooperation of all of us as Nigerians.
The big elephant in the room, quite a number of people have identified this. They say that the big elephant in the room that is connected to everything that we have talked about so far in this interview is the 2023 elections. That a lot of those who are fueling this, the insurgency, who are fueling the banditry, a lot of those who are fighting in various parts of the country, some of even the secessionist tendencies and so on, all have to do with the politics of 2023. But 2023 is at least 2 years away. Should that be our priority now? You're a politician and you're active in the ruling party. Should we be talking about 2023 now, in view of everything that we have talked about already?
Honestly, yes and no. Yes, because you need a political line, you need political, movement. Because you need, since we are practicing democracy, now there has to be a political process for change of government or for another government take over. But then, as at today, I think politics should be put at the background. We should fight for the soul of the nation, because you need to have the secure country before you start, playing politics. So I think the earlier we understand that, look, we, the politicians, that some of us are looking at 2023, you need the country to be around, in one piece before you start talking about 2023. So I totally agree with you, and those that, believe that we should put politics aside, we should probably put a pause and collectively start looking at our current situation, economic and security challenges. And the government, I assure you, is focused on that. The government is focused on securing this country. That is our main issue. We don't care in 2023. May the best person rule Nigeria for 2023. May the best person take over from Muhammadu Buhari. That's our focus. Our focus is to ensure we secure this country. So as today, as a government, I am telling you, as a government, our priority is to secure this country, to bring about economic businesses, not 2023.
Let me ask you this then. The other big thing that seems to be happening is that for the APC, your party, the ruling party, and I know that before APC, you were a member of the president's own party, the CPC. There is worry that because President Buhari will not be on the ballot in 2023, that he is the binding force of the APC. He is the one thing on which everybody in the APC seems to agree. With him out of the picture, it is to your tents, O Israel. Everybody is now fighting for their own political lineage, and that there could be trouble up ahead. Do you harbor this fear as well?
You see, well, Buhari is not going anywhere. First of all, yes, he will not be president, but then he will still be around to guide, to be the binding force. And look, we still have other leaders, Remember, APC is not Buhari. APC is not about Buhari. APC is about all of us. We have Bola Tinubu, who is also a leader. We have people like Amechi, who is also a leader. We have so many other leaders in this country that came together to form APC. We have Ogbonnaya Onu, who was the chairman of AMPP at that time. So we have leaders, and then Buhari will be there to superintend what happens, who takes over, how, the succession will take place. So Buhari is not going anywhere in terms of being around to guide the process. And that's exactly what is happening.
As we wind this interview down, I must ask this, because in view of the various comments you have made in the course of the interview, you seem to have had a change of heart somewhat, and I'll explain what I mean. In the recent past, that is before the APC came to power, you were one of those described as the firebrands of the party. I remember in response to a statement made by one of the then militants in the Niger Delta just before 2015, you said if a northerner does not emerge president in 2015, there will be no Nigeria. And before that, you had asked that President Jonathan be arrested for the insecurity challenges that were existent at that time. But now it doesn't sound like the two people are the same anymore, does it? Is it that you've undergone some kind of transformation?
No, you see, now, I was in the opposition, so I will not play the role of opposition now. So if anybody feels strongly about us, let him also go and say. You don't expect me to say my president should be arrested. I cannot do that. I mean, he's a member of my party, and I believe in what he's doing. So if now the role of opposition is for them, and they are doing it, what haven't they said? What are they not saying? So, I mean, that's their own. So I am still the same person. But let me tell you the probably what I think I made a mistake, by saying if a northerner. I think that was wrong of me to have said if a northerner did not take over. And I honestly, regret that statement, and I take it back, and I honestly, truly regret me ever saying if a northerner, because as I sit today, I want anybody from any part of this country, from any religion, to take over from Muhammadu Buhari. I am not one of those who are insistent that it must be a northerner or a Muslim. As at today, any Nigerian that can come and do better than Muhammad Buhari is the person I want to come and take over.
Your final words for the interview, I would like you to address the way forward now. What do you expect to see? Because a lot of people are worried. You pointed it out in the course of the interview. You said, well, the elites are the ones arguing and fighting and making all the incendiary statements, but that at the bottom of the ladder, you have the masses who just want peace, who just want to be able to live their lives and not be under the constant threat of attack and difficulty. But they need reassurance. They need confidence that this project called Nigeria is still for them. What would you say to them?
Well, to them, I will also beg of the masses to pray for us, that may we, the elites, see them as our subjects. May we, the elites, continue to put our heads together for the betterment of this country. May we, the elites, don't cause mayhem in this country. May our infighting does not bring into disintegration or violence or maiming in this country. So, and for us, the elites, I call on us to have the fear of God. We are people of faith. Whatever you are, either a Muslim or a Christian, most of us, we should have the fear of our God and look that we need, that there is a judgment day someday, that we believe in death, that when we die, we're going to meet our Creator and will answer for all what we have done on earth. So I call on us, the elites, to see us as one people, to do whatever it is, to tone down our rhetorics that bring about division, that bring about violence. Because as I said, the elites are one and the same, just like the masses are one and the same. So I think we'll come together and salvage our country together.
Honorable Farouk Adamu Aliyu, it's been an experience speaking with you today. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Thank you.
That's our program today. Thanks for watching. Would, as always, like to hear from you on your views of today's conversation and much more. Our social media handles are on your screen. You can also watch this and previous episodes of the program via our podcast. Go to our website, channelstv.com/podcast. I'm Ladi Akeredoluale. Goodbye.